Establishing battlefield control.
Hi everyone, Bandana here. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk Command & Conquer. It's kind of come up at an interesting time since I was planning to cover the Mental and Mega mod on Monday anyway for Red Alert 2 Yuri's Revenge. So the majority of you will have heard already, EA has finally released the Command & Conquer Ultimate Collection on Steam at a rather reduced price, along with a smattering of some older, very good titles, such as SimCity 3000 Unlimited, Populous 2, Populous at the Beginning, one of my childhood favourites, Dungeon Keeper 2, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, and The Saboteur. Most of those are coming in at about £2. The Saboteur is the newer game, and that comes in at £4.50. As I say, fantastic older games, but I digress. Anyhow, all of this also comes on the back of EA dropping the price of some of the C&C games already on Steam last week. So obviously now it makes sense that we're dropping the price in preparation for this release, as now you can't buy them separately, you have to buy the Ultimate Collection, which at just under £10 is an absolute steal, by the way. Even if Electronic Arts support don't think so, because I emailed them about getting keys for my boxed copies of my C&C games so I didn't have to faff around trying to install them another way, and this is the response I got from them. A simple "no, we don't do that" would have sufficed, but instead I got this weird response that basically said, "Don't buy our older games, we don't support them, buy our new stuff. They have prettier graphics." It wasn't even addressing the question I had. Anyhow, my weird little story about that aside, obviously you'll have seen in the press that this is all new. Is this going to be a new C&C game announcement? Oh my gosh, they've released it all. You know what? It's not new. So it sounds really cool to make it sound all new, but actually this has been in the offing for years. All of the C&C games were listed a long time ago in the Steam API in the back end. They've just been waiting an absolute age to go live with it. For example, you can find this post 10 months ago by Plastic Ads over on Reddit, talking about the fact that all of these games were in the Steam API. However, we can see it was actually earlier than 10 months ago, because if you go and search these games on SteamDB, some of them have branches that are older than 10 months ago. But I hear the dissenting voices in the crowd. Why have they suddenly released these now? Surely it's because there's a new C&C game on the way. The answer to that is twofold. Yes, there is a new Command & Conquer game. It's called Command & Conquer Legions, and it's available on your mobile phone. You can see its trailer running in the background right now. My suspicion is the actual reason for this release of C&C games, along with the other older games, is that they've just laid a load of people off and closed a bunch of studios and are hurting for cash. And no matter how you look at it, they're going to make some money selling these older games on Steam. And the reason I say that is because Electronic Arts seem to have just given up on Command & Conquer and any plans they had for it other than farming it out to a mobile developer. Why do I say this? Well, 5 years ago they posted a big announcement, C&C remastered announcement from Electronic Arts, where they said, "A month ago we let the Command & Conquer community know we're bringing the franchise back to the PC, starting with a remaster initiative." I want to highlight a few terms from the Electronic Arts side here in this first paragraph. So the first is a remaster initiative, which suggests going beyond Command & Conquer and Red Alert. And why do I make that assumption? Well, at the end of this paragraph they say, "And now we are ready to reveal our first PC offering." First, that suggests that they're planning multiple, or at least they were at the time. So what happened then? The remaster released it, it actually sold pretty well. Estimated sales are now at over 1 million, which isn't terrible for a remaster. But after the release, everything just went quiet again. Very quickly from Electronic Arts side, in fact, where there just seemed to be no further interest. And on Petroglyph's side, they seemed interested. They even reposted this poll that a fan had made. But they quickly shifted onto a new project, War at the Western Front, and then now onto 9-bit armies. Obviously, they've got bills to pay, and if Electronic Arts weren't interested, then they had to move on. And the other reason I suspect we're not going to see anything in terms of a new Command & Conquer game for PC is that, well, there's just been deadly silence. And usually in this day and age, there's some kind of leak or little job posting or something that reveals that they're working on it. And don't get me wrong, I'm really saddened by that, because I want a new Command & Conquer game if they can make one in the traditional style and up to that quality. However, let's be fair on Electronic Arts here. They've been burned pretty badly by Command & Conquer. Their attempt at C&C 4 was a shambles and released to very bad reviews, and then they made Command & Conquer Generals 2, which then became Command & Conquer and then got cancelled. The reality was, Generals 2 was doomed to fail when they changed it from Generals 2 to just be Command & Conquer, and then abandoned the idea of having a single-player game, or more specifically a single-player campaign, which is quintessential Command & Conquer. Their intention was a microtransaction-based online multiplayer PvP game, and then they had to relent at the last minute and say they would make a single-player campaign, though you would also have to pay extra for that as it would be a DLC. However, when it came to actually testing the game with the community and they did a beta test, it was pretty much universally panned by those players as just being a really bad game, multiplayer or otherwise. However, I do feel like these failures are Electronic Arts' own fault. Don't get me wrong, RTS certainly went on the back burner for a while. However, it's not just Command & Conquer that EA failed at. They also failed at another major franchise, and that was SimCity. First, they released the absolutely abysmal SimCity Societies, what were they thinking? And then they released the new SimCity in 2013, which was more like Sim Village going by the size of the maps, and well, it also had horrendous server issues. So at this point, you've got to ask yourself, who are Electronic Arts trying to target with these games? Because it sure as hell isn't the old audience of the SimCity games. And then Cities Skylines swooped in 2015 and absolutely wiped out any chance of EA coming back into the market. And that kind of leads me back to where we are with Command & Conquer. At the end of the day, they have no idea what they're doing with it, it seems. The remaster was a stroke of genius because that's what people wanted, but then they've just seemed to give up on it. And much like what happened with Cities Skylines and SimCity, I suspect we're going to see something similar with Tempest Rising and Command & Conquer, because Tempest Rising is basically a new Command & Conquer game if they can fix its issues, for lack of a better term, because there were a few problems in the previous demo. And don't get me wrong, I know there's Dorf and these other games coming out, but Tempest Rising is the big one, with the big studio behind it and all the big press. So while as a massive fan of the C&C franchise personally, I sit here and pray we will get a new one that is good, I just can't see it happening anymore. I genuinely think EA have just given up on the franchise. Or more, given up again. Because they'd kind of given up before the remastered collection, right? So that's kind of where I have to leave it. No, I don't think we're getting a new C&C game. I don't think this has anything to do with that. I think it's a really good bargain right now to get, you know, all of those C&C games for £10. A lot of them have really cool mods and stuff that you can play, and they should all work on the new systems. Go and enjoy the original C&C, because I don't think we're getting a new one. And I guess we just have to sit and hope that Tempest Rising can fill that gap. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe as always, and I'll see you all on Monday for some Mental Omega mod.